IVM.
So it's been another great week on IVM where we try to get you the best podcasts that are around. This week on the Pragati podcast, we have management and mint columnist Karthik Sashidhar, who joins Pawan and Hamsani to talk about elections and voting. On Shunyavan, we have Sameer Pittalwala, founder of Culture Machine, talking about streaming content online and ad creation through tech, his journey with setting up Culture Machine. On IVM Likes, we have Abbas, Janam and Naveen talking about the meme culture. On the Vishal Gundal show, Vishal welcomes Vivek Bhargav, CEO of iProspect to Communicate, one of the foremost digital advertising companies in the country. On Keeping It Queer, Naveen interacts with queer filmmaker Pradipta Ray, who opens up about what it was like to identify as trans in a culturally affluent household. On Who's Your Mommy, we tackle the weird advice literally everyone gives to new moms. On Cyrus Says, we have Gauri Devi Dayal, an ace entrepreneur responsible for starting several awesome restaurants in Bombay. On Sonology, a unique agony aunt call-in show, Sonu helps his listeners on how to potty train their dogs. It's been a great week on IVM, and we hope that you can check out as many of these shows as you can. And now let me get you onto your show.
You're listening to TFG Football.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TFG Indian Football Podcast. We are just a few days away. In fact, today is Monday, so we are just 3-4 days away from the beginning of the Intercontinental Cup. We're building up to it here. We are all in our respective homes, so please bear with us. This is not a studio quality episode, but we got some super duper quality inputs coming our way from none other than FNI, the best channel on Twitter when it comes to Indian football. So please welcome FNI. Thanks to you for joining us, man.
Thank you, Chiranjit.
Okay, so we got Kevin also joining us all the way from Mumbai. And Kevin, just a few days to go for Intercontinental Cup. Does it look like Mumbai is, getting ready and catching on to the football fever?
Of course. If you've not even followed Twitter, what I can guarantee is a lot of things are buzz offline. The Yellow Brigade is already gathering people. Yellow Brigade, we obviously know, wasn't just there for Mumbai FC. It was also there for the Indian national team playing in Mumbai. And I hear they've already contacted their regular members who have been following them for a long time offline, and that's quite a good number to have in this short tournament that we'll be coming up with. So that is from the Yellow Brigade side, but Blue Pilgrim is obviously making a lot of noise, and rightly so. They've gathered a lot of attention online, and we really we've seen them come in numbers for India's games earlier as well. So I think it's just building up well to this nice, lovely tournament coming up.
Go ahead, Unni.
Yeah, some Blue Pilgrims people are also coming down from Bangalore as well. So
it's this interesting convergence of fan clubs happening online. I've been following that scene. Yellow Brigade are coming in full force to support Blue Pilgrims, and they formed an alliance here. This is a bit of a surprise because Yellow Brigade seems to be even stronger now that Mumbai FC is no longer part of the scene. It just seems to be growing even though the club is no longer there. So it's I don't know. It's probably a good thing, but it's a bit weird as well. We are we'll get into the Intercontinental Cup in a bit. But first of all, Unni, since we have got you here, Alberto Roca has left Bengaluru FC, and he's left them when they are still alive in the AFC Cup. And it was an emotional moment in the BFC Awards where he couldn't control his emotions about this club. What does it like? What's your assessment of the Roca era? I remember you coming to the podcast when he first came in, and there were lots of hopes and aspirations and concerns. Do you think he's delivered on those, and do you think he's left the club in a better shape than he found it in?
Yes, I mean, I remember coming on this podcast a couple of times, I think earlier when Roca was appointed, and then during the phase when the team was also struggling in the IV in that initial phase. So at that point of time when the team was struggling, there was like a lot of negativity, and there was like a lot of opinions about how not a great coach he is, and probably the kind of position he has held in Barcelona is questionable, and all kind of opinions coming in. But kudos to the Bangalore FC management to stick on with him, and eventually he turned it around, and he had a great season. I mean, ISL season, so the team was playing splendid football. So I think it's always a case for managers who wants to have a different kind of or different style of play. That it's going to take some time for the team to adapt to what he wants, and that's what we found in the earlier phase when he came in. Then it kind of settled, and the team picked up on it, and worked for them. But from my perspective, I think he has been a great servant for the club. The club started playing some great football. I mean, in the way we want football to be played, and all that happened. And I think, from whatever I've heard, I think he's a great character as well, and he has great support from the team and the dressing room as well. And when Bangalore FC was having a lean patch in terms of the team not performing well, I think some of the senior members backed him, and that is why he didn't lose his job, is what I've heard. And his stint was pretty good for the club in terms of the philosophy in which they wanted to play, and all those things. But honestly, I'm not so sad that he left, and this might be kind of weird, but because it's kind of unanimous among the BFC fans that it's a great loss, and I do agree that it's a great loss. But somehow I feel that the team could be a little more, meaner, which I think under Roca probably it was not, and I think that was a major chink. Probably the team had a soft core, which some of the teams kind of exploited it, and that is partly probably because of the coaching philosophy and how the man is what I feel. I mean, this is a personal opinion, but I think a champion team should have a meaner streak in them, which probably allows them to, kind of boss the game. And I'm not saying that the team doesn't do that. Yes, of course they do. But I think, some of the teams do understand that chink in BFC, and they kind of exploit it. Like every time BFC plays East Bengal FC, and when Mehtab Hussain was there, he can, exploit this, and in the end, you can see that BFC is kind of wacky. I'm not saying that Chennai FC did the same thing in the ISL final, but I think again over there as well, on the whole, Chennai looked like a much more confident and much more meaner side, and this I think was like missing from BFC during Roca's tenure, and I hope they find a coach that is a little more aggressive. I don't have any problems with the way football is played, but I think in the attitude wise, and I hope you get when I say that that kind of need more sly nature to the kind of whole setup should be there, which will probably allow them to go even more forward is what I feel.
Yeah. So, usually when you hear coaches say that they want to spend more time for their family, it's usually a professional excuse. In Roca's case, though, it seems like a genuine thing that he has to do. He really didn't want to leave BFC, but he had to. What's your take on this, Kevin?
Yeah, that will be quite a statement if I say that's not true. You can be professional just by saying you're giving some personal excuse, personal reason, and that can be termed as an excuse. But you never know. It's that bonding. We've seen a good team spirit, not just on the field, off the field only. When we talk about PFC, there's a lot of close-knit family type environment, and that's probably the reason why Umi is also saying that it's not as aggressive as we've seen BFC in the past. Mm-hmm. That just comes along, the family feeling that when you are bonded so closely. But
that family feeling was there under Westwood as well. I would say that's where it started. Sunil Chetri used to refer to Bengaluru FC as a family all the way back in like early 2015-16. So but I agree that Roca is not as aggressive as Westwood, and in some games that made BFC pay. But half agree to your point. Continue, Kevin.
Yeah, that's fair. And it could be a time of being away from family that comes back to just at one point in time you do understand you have a family back home, and when you're spending so much time. And he did mention one point about the AFC Cup. It's a never-ending tournament. That really shows you when even in your off season you're stuck with the team, and then when the other teams are just spending their time away at vacations, you're preparing for your knockout tournaments, your knockout stages, or even group stages. That it comes in between your personal life and then your professional life gets hampered in some way. So I really won't be the one should be commenting whether that was an excuse. But I think it was a good time for Roca to be in where Ashley Westwood left BFC at, and to come in and just stabilize the team and take it forward from there. I think he did a commendable job just to keep the ship on the surface and get it sailing at a quite good speed, and stability was more important. When you achieve something in a short period, it's easily for anyone to come in and crumble, and then we see a chain of reaction happening, change of managers. But BFC is not gone with that. They stuck to the plan, and there's a reason they have 5 trophies in 5 years for them.
Yeah, I mean, you can look back and say Roca's legacy at Bengaluru FC involves reaching the AFC Cup final, winning Federation Cup, absolutely dominating ISL, 8 points lead at the top of the table, and winning the inaugural Super Cup. And again, the next coach that comes in can't be saying like, hey, I don't have Asian football to look forward to. Roca has kept Bengaluru FC alive, just like when he came in, and started with the AFC Cup knockout stage. But Unni, who do you think takes over now? We've had an aggressive, club building under Westwood, a more stable, but an approach that delivers under Roca. What next?
So just as I mentioned a little while ago, I guess hopefully they'll find someone. I'm not sure. Or
please don't say Wenger.
About whom they're going to.
Yeah, please don't say Wenger.
Certainly not. I don't think so. But I hope they do bring in someone a little more aggressive is what I feel. Right now I have no inkling what is exactly happening. But from what I've heard here, says that the club is looking for a manager from Spain itself. Is what I've heard. This is it's not 100% confirmed news, but yes. So I think the idea is to continue with the philosophy of what Roca has exhibited in Bangalore and Bangalore so far, and continue with that legacy. But so that's the plan, I guess.
Let's hope we get news soon. We got AFC Cup knockouts coming up in August. How do you rate Bengaluru FC's chances right now? Against Turkmenistan club.
So I think just as how Istiklal was, I think most of these Central Asian teams are going to be tough because they're pretty good in terms of technicality, and also they're like quite physical sides in terms of the kind of opponents they are going to be. So it'll be something like what the Istiklal match was. It's not going to be a huge gap between these two teams, but I think it's going to be difficult, but it's not like it's not going to be impossible for BFC. So that's what I feel, and I hope this time they're better prepared to overcome this challenge. Is what I feel.
All right, so let's hope for the best for Bengaluru FC and other clubs in Indian football. We are going to head off to a short break, and after that, we're going to build up towards the Intercontinental Cup.
Hi, I'm Amit Verma, the host of the weekly podcast The Seen and the Unseen. In my show, I examine the seen effects and the unintended consequences of public policy and private action. I show how policies meant to help the poor often end up hurting the poor. I show how good intentions can lead to bad outcomes. I've had guests like Jayaprakash Narayan, Shruti Rajgopalan, Alex Tabarrok, Shikha Dalmia and Vivek Kaul on this show. And we've covered subjects from politics, economics, foreign policy to even parenting.
Catch the show every Monday on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you prefer. Or visit seenunseen.in for all the latest updates.
Welcome back from the break. We are just a few days away from the Intercontinental Cup beginning in the Andheri Sports Complex, Mumbai Football Arena in Mumbai. And it seems like, for me, it's a deja vu because you just hear at first that some really nice teams are coming. Then it turns out like most of them are sending their youth setup. So mostly less experienced under 23 players. This is what used to happen in Nehru Cup. And it seems like even after that rebranding and something, just promising there will be quality opponents for India to face. It just seems like AIFF are just doing the same old thing. What's your take on this, Sunni? Is this a bit disappointing that New Zealand and Kenya are not really sending all their best players out there?
So at least on paper, we have some good names of teams. Yeah. These are pretty decent sides. Compared to what we used to probably have in the dying phase of Nehru Cup earlier. Yeah. So in that terms, this is certainly a little upgrade is what I feel. But again, we have seen Constantine saying, how difficult it is to find the opponents who wants to play. And despite our ranking being under 100 and all those things, he has voiced out in a couple of interviews that it's kind of difficult to find these good opponents. But then again, yes, so when the list of countries that is participating in the Intercontinental Cup was announced, I was pretty elated. But after seeing New Zealand's squad, I think we are kind of going back to the Nehru Cup phase itself. And one thing I don't understand is why is probably AIFF so hell-bent on conducting a four-nation tournament? Instead, they can actually go for probably a couple of friendlies that might help us. But I don't know. I mean, like, why they are still insisting, or they won't continue this format of having a small, tournament.
I think this is completely about the Star Sports deal. They think a tournament will attract more viewers than just a random couple of friendlies. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But also one thing to note is at the start of at the announcement of the Intercontinental Cup, it was clearly mentioned that there's an agreement that all these countries will be sending in their first teams. I clearly remember that was a statement that was put out. Saying,
but how do you define first team? Like you have a lot of under 23 players who have represented the country in like 4-5 matches in the past, most of which were like friendlies against perceivably weaker teams. You just send them and you say that, hey, we're sending players who already played for our country's national team. So there's no set definition for a first team, right? Because just because like 5 or 6 of their best players are not there, you can't call it reserves also. So it's a very
So it could mean first team means because it is playing for the first time together. That also could be one definition.
But seriously, man, Kevin, I wanna get this run this by you. Even though these are mostly let's say especially Kenya and New Zealand, most of the players will be less experienced, and if we're talking about Asian Cup qualifiers or Oceania Cup or World Cup qualifiers, we can pretty much say that this is not the team that New Zealand and Kenya will pick to send to those matches. So it's definitely not their best squads. But is it still tough enough for India? I look at those players and I don't really see easy ways for India to win it. So in that way, does it still work out for India as a good preparatory friendly since we're building up towards the Asian Cup?
It really matters where your team comes together. At the moment, I think having the camp was important. If not for one friendly, we're getting at least 3 matches. Plus probably one final if we are able to get through. At the moment, we shouldn't be worrying whether the teams are as strong as we could have expected. But it's really not easy for us to get friendlies against better sides, because first thing is we've not hit the rankings, and the best of the credibility is not. We've gradually come up to under 100. But we've not kept ourselves here for too long. It's just been a couple of months that we are here. But as long as we are able to gradually hit that a double digit for a longer period of time, I think that is when, and competitions is what we need to be looking at. Friendlies will keep happening, but unless we try to get in competitions, tournaments, and get decent results in the tournaments, we will not be able to get better opponents as of now, because this has been going on for some time. Nehru Cup is also an example. The staff championship, he's been there forever, but we've not really played against quality oppositions too often to better ourselves as a nation, at least in the continental level. So I think we'll have to just do with it as of now. The preparation is not the best, but the preparation is coming together. I think that is more important than having even better opposition at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying this. When making friendlies and picking opponents, serious country sides, they don't look at ranks. They look at, they take rank into account, but what they take into account even more is the reputation, right? So India, I don't think they have that reputation of beating some of the really competent teams out there, right? We haven't beaten Thailand in such a long time, and Thailand is still a minnow in world football. So that's where we are. We couldn't beat Myanmar twice. One win we got against them, and again Myanmar, are they in the Asian Cup? I don't really think so. So that's why we are. That's why India is still not taken seriously. I don't think that reputation is going to change until we, win a couple of games in Asian Cup, which is a mammoth task. What do you think this tournament? Coming to Unni, does this tournament serve as a proper preparation for the Asian Cup? We have still decent teams who will pose a challenge against India. We have 4 teams, so that emulates the group stage of the Asian Cup. So players can experience that heady what do you call it, the structure of a tournament and just the grind of it. So in that way, does it help?
Yeah, to an extent, I guess it is definitely going to help. It's not like, just because they are. So the general, opinion is that, okay, that India keeps on playing Nepal and, that is not going to help us. I still think that playing Nepal itself is going to help because they've always put up a formidable, kind of fight whenever India is taken on. Right now, I think we are a bit high on confidence and probably can, defeat them. But still, whenever I've seen we taking on Nepal, we have kind of struggled, and Nepal is up a good fight as well. So any of these matches are going to help, and New Zealand is a pretty, pretty good pedigree in terms of their football team. And Kenya has got some real good players and all those stuff. So I think these teams are pitting against these teams, playing against these teams are going to help anyway. So I'm not 100% sure whether this is going to be the right, practice before the Asian Cup, but it is definitely going to help, and it's not like a situation where a team is traveling almost half of the globe and then coming down and playing the next day or something like that. So there's going to be a little more settled and thought out tournament. So that means the teams will be a little more prepared, I guess. So I think they all are going to put up a good challenge against India, and it's going to help us, is what I feel.
Yeah, let's see how that works out. We got 2 tournaments coming up, the Intercontinental Cup in early June, and in September we have the SAF Championship. How is this looking in terms of build-up towards the Asian Cup? Because usually we don't see the league, ISL especially, stopping for an international break, and we have the Asian Cup happens in January, so we're gonna need to see some good friendlies, just at least a couple of good matches in the lead up to it. So it does it seem like there's extra pressure on the national team management that okay, you have to start getting your squad settled now. You have to whoever you want to look at, take a look at them now, because in the last couple of months leading up to the Asian Cup, they're going to be playing club football, and since we're going to have almost a 1 month break because of the Asian Cup, both the leagues will have to stop for that. We're just gonna see them get tired playing twice or thrice a week between October and December, So do you think there's extra pressure on the coach and the management because of that?
Is the question to be?
The question is because all the players will be busy playing club football in the lead up to the Asian Cup. Do you think there's extra pressure on the management to look at the players now?
Okay,
too early.
So I feel it's much better than the tournament being in an off season, I guess, because the players would have already hit the ground and training, and they'll be fit. But there's always a risk of injuries when a season is going on, so that is part and parcel of the game. And from what I've heard from the internet and the Twitter is that we might see some extended breaks for these tournaments.
Yeah.
And so if that is the case, I think this is going to definitely kind of help us. And I'm not sure whether this is a popular opinion, but I feel the players are kind of getting a bit more better, kind of training and physical fitness in ISL. So that means probably it's going to reflect in the performance of the national team as well. I mean, if they can keep themselves injury free.
But Kevin, coming to you, a coach's perspective. Constantine has repeatedly said that one of the biggest problems he faces at the national team camps is that the players, when they are with their ISL or I-League teams, their fitness is not as up to the mark because maybe it's because the fitness regime at those clubs is not up there with the national team, or one thing that he talks about again and again is that when they're at the club, they play a very different kind of football than what they have to play at the Asian Cup, and it requires a very different kind of physical fitness. So, we're gonna have players who are already in the league season, so they will be active. That's a plus. But they will be playing so often, and they will be in that club mode going into the Asian Cup. That's gonna be a bit of that could be a bit of a problem, right?
Yeah, the coaches will always complain when you have a player who plays for his team and another team that the routines are not suiting his requirement. So that's always going to be there, and especially the national team coach. But I will disagree on the point that it's extra pressure on the players or even the management, because I think we are far better than the first season of ISL where there was a tug of war for players. The pull and push between the national team and the ISL team who wanted to keep the players and not release them to go and play for the national camp. But we've reached a stage where this is quite sorted, and this is better. I think in a time where you already playing so much of football and you take a break and then go and play international tournaments followed by the national camp. I think that is much better than a tug of war for players, because it always runs in the mind as well. So whether you give 100% for the country, you also have to give 100% for the club that you play for. But when you have a break, it's really easing out for players' parts and even for the coaches. It's a more comfortable time for the players, and it's a proper circle to have. Just following the calendar much better than at least 3 years back.
Okay, so we know what kind of the teams that Kenya and New Zealand are sending. There's a preview of those teams up on the fangarage.com that you can check out. It's written by Raghu, a pretty in-depth analysis of the squads. But Chinese Taipei seems to be the odd man out in the tournament. It's like we probably will get a hard time against Kenya and New Zealand. So we just had to bring those guys in so that we can at least Taiwan. So yeah. So yeah, is that do they belong in this tournament in terms of the quality of the other teams, or are they just there to entertain us at the beginning of the competition, Unni?
So I think, I remember Constantine saying that Chinese Taipei team has improved quite a bit of late, and they have the former Guam coach at the helm right now, and what happened when we played Guam. So let's not take any teams lightly. I guess with our team and the kind of form, I guess they won't be just a push over kind of situation. I think they're going to be maybe not as big as a challenge in terms. I mean, like Kenya or New Zealand, but they will also be pretty decent in terms of an opposition, is what I feel.
Okay, so on the 1st of June, India is going to play Chinese Taipei on the opening night. And then the challenge will get progressively harder as they face the other two teams. Intercontinental Cup, I think it's not the perfect tournament, but given that it emulates an Asian Cup group stage, given that it gives the players a chance to experience the tournament, many of them probably haven't experienced it. Some new players were tried out in the SAF Championship. I'm pretty sure some new players will be tried out in September again. But it's important for them to do this, know what it's like. Just comparing this only with the build-up, the long build-up that we had in 2011 Asian Cup, 7 or 8 months the team was together. You compare that, side by side with the kind of preparation we're having now. What does it tell you about how all in AIFF is in terms of going up to Asian Cup?
My opinion about that, taking a select set of players and giving them or keeping them together was not that great an idea. Of course, they got a lot of exposure and all those kind of things, but what I feel is like that kind of stopped the chances for other better performing players to come inside the squad and probably, better performing in terms of form, and that stopped the chance for a lot of young players who were upcoming, and they did not get that chance. So I think definitely the plan this time around is much better. Not taking some 30 players abroad and giving them training. As you know, it didn't quite work out well for us as well. So I think this the plan this time around is better. I hope, as usual, there are problems for fans about the kind of players that are being selected. I hope some better players who have displayed good form will come in, and hopefully the coach strengthens the side a little more better by adding a little more quality. Yeah.
So what do you think, Kevin? This is a better way to go up, let the players play for clubs, play in different kinds of tournaments, and basically have them be exposed to different kinds of challenges, and keep options open so that you can modify the squad all the way up to the Asian Cup main tournament, rather than just picking 30 players 1 year ahead and say, okay, we're gonna travel the world and prepare for an adventure.
Yeah, so exposure tools is always in question whether it helps the preparation for any team. But if you just pay attention to how the under-16 team of the national side is doing, some comparison can be drawn against the way they've been approaching their season and their preparation to the AFC Championship and the Indian team. It's going very similar. The Indian national team also had a lot of exposure tools. But here the difference being the under-16 team is playing a lot of tournaments, be it Four Nation, be it club friendlies. But what the difference is, when you participate in tournaments, any tournament, you have something to lose. That fear itself, put something as a learning. You got even if you don't make it through in the friendly, it's going to be there for your rankings, for your points. So, playing tournaments adds up to your reputation and adds up to your credibility, because, when you do well against Team A, maybe other teams also watching, okay, this was a tournament and there was a competition that the India team participated and they had, a good run in the tournament. But compared to that, a friendly, when you play a friendly, even if you win, it's there for your history. It's not going to be adding competition value. So that's where I feel the difference is. Even if you go on exposure tours, playing competition at the end of at least a spell of friendlies is important, because your preparedness completes at the end of a tournament play. So that is the difference I feel. Even though we've hosted a lot of 3 nations, 4 nations, we've not played a tournament. This is a made-up tournament. We are not participating something that is legible for consideration as a tournament. But this is just a friendly converted into a tournament. So apart from that, I think if you really participate in tournaments like SAF and even other competitions elsewhere in the Asian level, I think that will be more beneficial for the team.
Yeah, well, we got that. SAF is. I don't think anybody is going to count SAF as a preparation for Asian Cup. And the SWAF, SW, the Southwest Asian thing that they tried to do, that's in hot water now. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. So Intercontinental Cup is what we're stuck with. That's the tournament maybe we don't need, but we deserve it. Do you think at the end India is going to emerge victorious in this tournament, so to speak?
In the Intercontinental Cup, I mean, it's a difficult call. Both New Zealand and Kenya won't be that easy. I think Chinese Taipei will also not be pushover. Let's hope that our team put up a good performance and and come out victorious. But I don't think I'll stick my neck out and say that we're going to be champions.
Okay, so we'll give the last word to Unni here. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks Unni @ FNI on Twitter. Kevin, who's @ Boza_Kevin on Twitter. And of course me, @ Chiranjit Ojha on Twitter. So please follow us and follow @TFG Football for all your updates on Indian football. And please download the IVM Podcast app, where you can get this podcast and dozens of other Indian podcasts, the top-rated Indian podcasts, all in one place. And you can also listen to this and all other IVM podcast programs on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, and different other podcasting platforms that you prefer. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe. And we will continue our journey exploring the Intercontinental Cup and building up towards the Asian Cup in our next episode. So thanks a lot.
There she stands, a podcast addict. Outside the bank, having traveled several miles to get in with other poor souls like her. The journey, though daunting for this youngling, will have some comfort because she has downloaded her favorite podcast. You can see more of her species on ivmpodcasts.com, your one-stop destination where you can check out the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.